Well, hello and welcome back, my body language buddies. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and welcome to my brand new channel, The Crime Coroner. This is gonna be my new home to be the coroner, do the autopsies of actual crimes. So, what is going on with all this? And we are going to be touching really, let's say, trigger warning topics. And I'm pretty sure that you are coming from my body language guy channel, that you should have seen the video that I made to send you here so you can discover this. And just briefly, the mechanics should be at first that maybe I do some kind of introduction by in the body language guy channel about these cases, and then here in the crime coroner is where I'm going to do this long discussions, long analysis of interviews, of interrogations, of trials as well, of anything regarding these cases. So you're gonna have maybe the smallest, the summary of the cases back in the body language guy on my True Crime Tuesdays, and then you will be able to expand all that you want in this channel. So this channel is gonna be for the long form content. It's more like when I created my Royal Rogue channel, that Royal Rogue was originally for long form discussion on the Royals. This is gonna be a long form discussion or long form analysis of true crime. In this case, of course, in true crime, you can have 3 hours of interrogations. We're gonna have long videos here, but I'm going to make sure that they are as succinct and summarized and condensed as possible. As is in this, that we are going to talk about none other than Karen Read. And without further ado, I think we should go and let's get down to it. Let's talk briefly about the case of Karen Read. Karen Read, a former adjunct professor, is on trial for a second time for the 2022 death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Prosecutors allege that after a night of drinking, Read struck O'Keefe with her Lexus SUV outside a house party in Canton, Massachusetts, and left him to die in a snowstorm. She faces charges of second-degree murder, vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated, and leaving the scene of a collision. The prosecution argues the couple's troubled relationship led to the fatal incident, while the defense claims that Read is the victim of a police cover-up, asserting O'Keefe was beaten by someone at the party, and that evidence was manipulated to frame her. The first trial ended in a mistrial after a hung jury. The retrial has featured new attorneys, a different lead prosecutor, and heightened public scrutiny. Recent proceedings have been tense, with the defense repeatedly seeking mistrials over alleged prosecutorial misconduct and disputes over forensic evidence, including the nature of O'Keefe's injuries and the handling of his clothing. Expert witnesses for the defense have testified that O'Keefe's wounds are more consistent with a fall than being struck by a vehicle, while the prosecution maintains that Read's vehicle caused his death. The retrial is nearing its conclusion, with the defense expected to rest its case soon. So, what we're going to do here, I made this analysis. This is, for example, this is 1 hour, a little more than 1 hour, this interview. As long as I have time, I am going to do this analysis the proper way. And what is the proper way? The proper way of this analysis, or my body language analysis, when I do them in the way I do them professionally for actual cases in real life that I don't share with you, is that I listen to the video or the clips or the footage first without looking at the video. That is also my recommendation. You have heard that a couple times. If you want to really analyze something, you have to listen to it without looking at the people first. Just listen. It's a bit counterintuitive, right? We're going to analyze body language and we're not going to look at their body language, but it is what it is. And I already listened to this interview, and to ease in this analysis, I made annotations and decided, okay, these are the parts of the interview that I should be looking at their body language. I have not analyzed this. You're going to see me do kind of a blind run of the moments that I heard were important, I thought that, okay, they were worthy of an analysis, and I'm going to do it right now. So I'm going to bring my annotations here to make sure that I start in the right time codes. And the first time code is discussing John's death. All right, this is going to be the first one. And this is the clip. Let's hear what she has to say about John's death. And of course, for, to avoid any copyright issues, I will have to be pausing this every now and then, and we're gonna make sure to stop if we see any signals. Okay, everything is ready. We're ready to begin. Here is the first analysis of the Crime Coroner, and you're here. Welcome. Yeah, I really welcome and thanks for being here. Really, let's start.
The nastier it gets, the more I know that we're making an impact to people that have a lot to worry about.
3 years have now passed since John's death. How much do you think about him with everything else that is going on?
Well, a couple of things. You know that when we analyze body language, we should know about the baseline of the person. I have already analyzed. I think I analyzed her and on Twitter back in the day. And I remember that I got some conclusions. And one thing that was very important that is worth mentioning is not only about the context, but the conditions of the subject in this case. When we are talking about the Karen Read case, one thing, if we talk about body language, one thing that we need to take into account is that she suffers from multiple sclerosis. And when you suffer from multiple sclerosis, there's this difficulty in terms of body language, and that's one of the reasons that I waited until I had a better grasp of her body language baseline until I could finally decide to analyze her, because multiple sclerosis can F up your body expression in many ways, both your muscle tone, the control even of your voice, the control of all your movement is affected by that condition. So that is an actual challenge, that is an actual hurdle. So it is very important to take that into account, and of course have all the rest of the let's say the ingredients we have, including, of course, statement analysis. So we're gonna see a couple of things here. Not only body language, but also statement analysis, and of course her interactions with her attorney, which are going to be important, or at least that's what I heard. But very important, the context. And in this case, the context, if we're talking about body language, is if the person can, well, their body language, Karen Read, in this case, her body language has any kind of handicap, and multiple sclerosis is one of them.
I think about him in terms of his final days, his final weeks. I mean, we have his cell phone, which a cell phone to anyone is like a diary, and it tracks everything you've done. And
I noticed when I was listening to this, okay, we are easing in. We are very early into the interview, like less than 3 minutes. Maybe she was still warming up. You see this long pauses that is consistent with the first part of an interview, which the interviewer must ask, easier questions at first, so you can warm up the subject. You always are asked the hardball questions maybe halfway through, and we're gonna look at those questions, by the way. But this is important. She's kind of warming up, and I don't see any emotional markers now.
I've gone over and over his final movements, his heart rate, his injuries, the time that he did everything that day and the days leading up to it.
I noticed that she speaks about John in a very confident way. The way that I see her body language, I have seen her in all the clips that I've seen about her, is basically the same. I think that she compensates a bit in terms of her chin, it's not that horizontal, it's a bit upwards. I don't think that it's arrogance, because that's something that she does all the time. Again, part of her body language baseline. And I can understand that is one of the reasons that some people could have this trigger dislike to her. Maybe they just dislike Karen Read because of the way that she speaks. But I've noticed that she speaks just like that all the time, regardless of what she's saying. So that's something to think about as well, because that's something that can taint a body language analysis.
But I've said this to other people. The time that I spent with John, 2 years, it's now been 3 since he's gone, since he was killed. And I'm a year beyond. I've eclipsed the time that I spent with him.
A couple of things that, in terms of physiognomy, are important. You just notice that there's something in Karen Read's eyes that tell you, oh yeah, she must be guilty because of that. Okay, wait a second. We are getting really ahead of ourselves. She's got something that she does. She raises her right eyebrow. There's this kind of asymmetry to her face. It's something that you realize immediately when you have studied physiognomy, how to interpret how somebody's face, what can somebody's face tell you about them. And I immediately noticed that a couple of things. She talks and has this way of pursing her mouth, has that eyebrow raised, and sometimes opens her eyes like this. I think that she does it in this clip at some point.
The time that I spent with John, 2 years, it's now been 3 since he's gone, since he was killed.
Okay. Look at this frame. Okay, this is the kind of things that these are not micro expressions. These are displays of the regular body language baseline of a person. Because it is mistaken to think that body language baseline, the common body language of somebody, is that just a resting face or just how they speak all the time. Sometimes they have this certain displays, like in this, that she raises her eyelids, she really raises her right eyebrow. You notice that a wrinkle appears in here. I'm gonna really zoom in so you can see the wrinkle. There it is. She raises her eyelids, and she has this asymmetry to her mouth that, again, could be product of multiple sclerosis. So again, I have noticed in how many people pitch this case to me, and you have to see her face. You have to see that she's guilty just by looking at her face. Okay, wait a second. Okay, you can't tell a lot by somebody's face, but you can tell outright if somebody is guilty. You can see some tendencies in somebody's face, but again, we have to take into account the challenges of looking at their face. And in this case, we have a challenge, and in this case, she doesn't do that all the time. But I can understand for this kind of stuff that some people would say, I just don't like her. All right, that is right. That is, I could say that is valid. But one thing is not liking somebody because they give you bad vibes. All right, that's absolutely okay with that. And another thing is saying that they are guilty because I don't like them. All right, we need to make that distinction. So you see that sometimes people's body language baseline can lead you to dislike them just because of that. That's why it's important to be able to interpret those subtle signals so you can spot, oh, right, they do this, such and such. That's why they trigger this in me, so I can make the compensation and really listen to their words. That's how you really engage with people, even if you, at first sight, you dislike them for some reason. Even if your intuition tells you, oh, right, I don't like this person. I'm going to say at the end, what were my first thoughts of Karen Read when I look at the first videos of her. Meanwhile, it's important to take these points into account.
And I have very mixed feelings, when I look back on John, because I see a lot of poor decisions that were all precursors to his death and to this nightmare that I'm living. So
There's one, she talks about the nightmare that she's living. You notice that her voice finally breaks a bit. Okay, I'm pretty sure that all this ordeal has taken a toll on her. Besides the MS, I'm going to say multiple sclerosis as MS from now on for brevity. So I can understand that that's why she reacts this way.
His death and to this nightmare that I'm living. It's
Poor decisions by whom?
by both of us. Just drinking, being around the wrong people.
Right after she says drinking, I have heard that pause. I remember that pause when I heard this for the first time. She purses her lips.
Poor decisions by whom?
By both of us. Just drinking.
She does that. Okay. I heard this pause. And this is something that she does all the time. It's not like pressing her lips. It's not really pressing her lips. It's like pursing them in a way. She does this a lot between words. And it's a very odd gesture that it's like a signature gesture to her that we have to take into account. In all cases, if you see a signature gesture that a very concrete person, in this case Karen Read, does, you try to notice, you try to pinpoint when does that gesture appear. So it's not like, oh, that gesture has a meaning. No, when does that appear? What are they talking about when that gesture flashes or shows up? That's way more important because that gives you the pattern of their speech about every topic or every reaction to questions that they might have.
Wrong people is chief among them. Wrong people for the weeks leading up. They wouldn't have been people I would have chosen on my own to be around.
Yeah, her voice breaks a lot in that sentence.
They wouldn't have been people I would have chosen on my own to be around.
The question, I got a very good question. We need to jump to the other annotation. The next one is at minute 57. I have the minute 57 right here. I'm going to jump here right now before I mention the question. I got a very good question about Karen Read. How can you analyze a person who has given all these interviews, who has given all these press conferences, who has gone through all these trials? Don't you think they have a chance to practice all this stuff by now, that they have been all the chance to, polish their alibi and their arguments? And I say, that is actually easier to analyze. How does that work? Because when a person is being asked or interrogated the first time, they are nervous. That is normal. They're going to be nervous. They're going to be nervous in those first press conferences, in those first interviews. And that nervousness will cause nonverbal noise. Okay, a lot of nervousness signals are going to limit the way that you can interpret the actual signals of if they are consistent or not with what they are saying, right? But as time progresses, and if they give more and more interviews and more press conferences, they get more confident. And if they are innocent, well, that is great, because that is easier to spot innocence, because, well, innocence is quite hard to fake, all right? It's quite easy to, when somebody's innocent, if they had this experience addressing the press and addressing a jury, because it's like that nervousness fades away and all you have is your innocence. But if the person is guilty, we have something different in that situation. We have a very interesting situation in that regard. If the person is guilty and they have gone through all these interviews and press conferences and they have like more experience, they get more comfortable. They get cocky sometimes. They get, oh yeah, this is easy. This is. I was nervous at first, but now I can just tell. And that's when they get confident. They get comfortable just giving these interviews, and then that's when the real inconsistencies slip through. They just let it slip because they get confident. So that's basically the answer to the question. How do you analyze somebody who has given all this, and don't you think that they could have practiced that? Yeah, if you're guilty and you have practiced, you will get better, indeed. And as you get better, you will get more confident, and it will be easier actually to spot inconsistencies, because it's going to crack sometimes, at some point. It's going to crack at some point. So we are going to talk about right now, so the phone calls to mother.
Anyone who spent any time with me throughout my life knows I'm incredibly close to my parents. And I was very troubled, to put it. You've heard the voicemails. It was a blizzard. There were young children unattended.
Notice that there are no pauses. She is very confident about what she's saying. She has still the same expression. It hasn't changed. Again, I'm telling you, that's why it was important. The right eyebrow raised. I am not going to mention that again unless it is necessary. The same eyelids, let's say, open more than average, and the same way of the mouth pulls a bit to her left side. So that's something that is odd. That is like a double asymmetry that is odd, in which she pulls her right eyebrow and her mouth drops a bit to one side. That gives her face a bit of a crooked expression. And we as humans, we are humans. We see that kind of crooked expressions, and we automatically, I'm going to say, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like this person. That's something. That is being human. There's nothing wrong with that. We are hardwired. That's when we begin to talk with the person and we notice, oh no, this person is nice after all, or this person is innocent after all. By the way, so far, when I've said guilty or innocent, I am not addressing Karen Reed yet, but I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So we move on talking about those calls to her parents.
And John, uncharacteristically, and when I say uncharacteristically, I mean he's never done that before at that hour in those conditions. And I was panicked. I was torn between.
What is that? She keeps saying, John. I don't see any change in her voice tone when she addresses John, which will be one of the most important tells when somebody's addressing. If she actually did something to John, you will hear something. You will hear at least a change in her voice tone. Again, so far I haven't heard any change.
Did something go wrong, or is he purposely ignoring me and taking advantage of me to go home to the kids while he stay out drinking?
When she begins to say
the kids while he stay out.
When he stayed out
while he stay out drinking.
She brought her head a bit backwards. Notice that she did this. I'm noticing it right now. She brought her head backwards, in which you already saw that she was a bit, let's say that she had regrets about that drinking, about that behavior. And again, when she's saying the drinking, she brings her head back. There's a bit of consistency in there. Every time she mentions the drinking, her voice drops or her head is brought backwards. She doesn't like the fact that was happening. I think that's one of her worst regrets of that night. So twice already we see a consistent signal. That is important. Does this happen? Does something happen when she mentions what? Well, we know that when she mentions drinking, something happens.
And as I do, and do I wish I did it less? Yes, but now I need her more than ever. As I normally would do, I'd reach out to my mother for what do you think's happening?
This is another thing that I told you 100 times in my Body Language Guy channel. You have to be careful when people are denying a very subtle shake, of her head when she
So
says,
more than ever, as I normally would do, I'd reach out to my mother for what do you think's happening?
what do you think is happening? She is shaking her head just a bit. I would say, I would include a flag in here. A flag in here because actually I'm going to be fair to what I've told you so many times. She should be emphasizing something, but she's not emphasizing anything. Reach out
to my mother for what do you think's happening?
She's shaking. She's very subtly shaking her head, but she's not emphasizing something. Very subtle dissonance. The shaking is not that ample, so I'm gonna make add a mark in here. All right, add a mark in here.
And I,
Now notice, this is something that she hadn't done in a while. Right after that shaking, she wets her lips and did she swallow? I think that I saw her swallowing.
and I,
No, it was just a wetting of the lips.
and I, reach out to them every day now that night it's like I never woke up from it. So.
All right. This is another thing that she does at the end of her answers, and you're gonna see. I'm pretty sure that it cuts immediately.
I think
it cuts immediately to her attorney just intervening. She does this. You know that when she is starting to feel nervous, actually nervous, she does this. She hasn't done this yet. And all the time that we have been analyzing her, she hasn't done this. That is poking her lips, and you can see this little holes right below her cheeks. That is a gesture that she does when she's actually nervous, and maybe she recalls all the times that she literally needed her parents for support, and that's why she makes that gesture. And I'm pretty sure that's we will be on the lookout if we can spot that gesture again. So next one is all right. The next one is the question of who do you think did it? Okay, you didn't do it. We guess you're gonna say you didn't do it, of course, but we want to know who do you think did it. That is important. The C is here. Is 30 seconds. It's right here.
Who do you think, if John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
we don't know.
We don't know.
All right. So it is. I'm going to try to fix the frame here. So you see that there is a huge synchronicity in here and how the attorney answers for her. That is, for me, that is a, let's say it's a yellow flag. Let's not say it's a red flag, because the attorney has to make sure that she answers what they have practiced. Although I cannot imagine that they have not practiced such an important answer. Who did this? I don't know. We don't know. And I'm going to repeat that.
House, who did it?
We don't know.
It's like immediately. See, I want to see his expression. It's very much a neutral expression, but before she has time to answer, he goes for it.
We don't know.
And he immediately looks at her as in a signal, because he knows that she's going to pick up him in her peripheral vision.
We don't know.
And she looks in his direction, and that's the most interesting part, I would say, of that attorney-client relationship, is that they are a complete mirror of their body language at that moment. It was interesting to see that that reaction. I don't blame the attorney for interrupting or something. If I represented somebody and with such an important question, such a critical question, it's important to say, I don't know. What I find odd is that if I was representing somebody, I would make sure to go through this question 1,000 times so my client knows exactly what to answer in the natural way without me having to intervene. You understand that? So it was a bit odd that at this point, her attorney had this reaction.
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
And he emphasizes the we don't know. He shakes his head, and she does something that she hasn't done yet. This is yet a new gesture. This is not the same lip pressing. You see that her philtrum, the space between her upper lip and her nose, has gotten smaller, right? That's her actual lip pressure. That is Karen Read pressing her lips. All right, that is the important thing to see. And yeah, I better shut my mouth because I shouldn't be talking about this. It's something that I'm pretty sure they agreed upon this, but the attorney didn't want to take any chances. That is important.
And it's not for us to know.
And he keeps answering.
Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that.
I'm gonna fix this frame as well as something that sometimes I have to do this on the fly.
Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John. But who it was specifically?
It's interesting that he says for the killing of John. It was very explicit. Like somebody else is not responsible for this or for what happened to John. No, he wants to make it very clear that somebody else killed John. Okay, it was not just an accident. Somebody else killed John. There's somebody out there who is the actual murderer. That's the way that you, as an attorney, frame your answer. Or he's framing this answer to let's say, take the attention away from Read and into that someone else who actually killed John. No, it's not what happened to John, it's who killed John.
Responsible for that, for the killing of John.
And he thinks for a second and emphasizes for the killing of John.
But who it was specifically, others know, and they're not talking.
Others know, all the theories about this, all the things, and I cannot blame so many people for thinking that there's a huge conspiracy about this. We don't know why, but there could be a huge conspiracy about this. But how many times we have heard about cover-ups, not only in this case, but in so many cases. I'm not going to put on my conspiracy theorist hat now. I am in my analyst hat right now, but I have to say that that's something that happens and quite frequently. So, okay, there's a discussion about the jury selection that happens at 51 minutes. Let me see, or 51 minutes. Let's jump there. 51. Where's your 51? Is right here. All right. Say I think that there's an escalation with the attorney in here.
I'm not afraid of this case being tried in Norfolk County. I'm agnostic.
In terms of picking a jury for the next trial, I mean, it was a challenge the first time around. How the heck do you do it this time?
We're not looking for jurors that haven't heard about the case. That's going to be impossible. We're looking for jurors that haven't formed an opinion about the case, which is possible.
All right, that pause was interesting. She did an eye flutter that she hasn't done yet, and she did was that closing just one eye? Let me see.
haven't formed an opinion about the case, which is possible.
All right, I missed it the first time. I had to do it. I missed that. How interesting! It's like that is the thing. So sometimes you have to only wait to watch this. It's in slow motion. That's how you pick this up. Let me see it in real
We're
time.
looking for jurors that haven't formed an opinion about the case, which is possible.
All right, this is absolutely of what I've heard about MS, multiple sclerosis. I have to say this because I don't know how many of you are picking this. I've heard that this is something that can happen. That you can suffer from muscular dystrophy in any part of your body. So that single blink could be just part of that. It's of course not normal. We usually are. We blink at the same time. You can have a lazy eye. That is not something that is no. It's not lazy eye. Lazy eye is another thing. Lazy eye is when your eye is pointed in one direction. It's when you have one eyelid that is droopier than the other one. That's another thing, and you would see that eyelid droopier almost all the time. All right. Sometimes when you have cosmetic surgery, you can have some trouble closing your eyelids, especially if it's been days since that surgery. That can happen. But in this case, I would say that it's just a part of multiple sclerosis. It's not. It is not I wouldn't say that it is on. It was more interesting the pause
Haven't
itself.
formed an opinion about the case.
Haven't formed an opinion about the case. That is a challenge. That is a challenge. That is a real challenge. That's why she made that
An
pause.
opinion about the case.
But the single I shared in that must be the MS. I'm quite sure that has literally no meaning. It's like what is the if I see a cute girl on in the street and I do this, well that has a meaning, right? There's like something in my eye, or I'm just joking. But in this case, I would just add maybe add a mark, but that's it. But wouldn't pay much attention to it. But the pause, the way that she paused, that's why I made the annotation. Is that's what really concerns her, finding a jury that hasn't formed an opinion already of if she is guilty or innocent. That's the real challenge.
Which is possible, and they may have. I know there are people in the jury pool that have maybe heard about the case tangentially, or know my face, or passed by it on the dial, but don't really know the evidence.
She did something with her mouth.
Passed by it on the dial, but don't.
Oh, she vocalized. She did a ghost vocalizing there.
On the dial.
She was looking for the words. It was interesting. Let's look at her mouth. That kind of stuff. Again, it's interesting to see. It doesn't happen all the time. I don't always have the opportunity to show you this stuff because it's better to look for it in reality, right? It's in real clips.
Pass by it on the dial, but don't really know the
There's a ghost vocalizing in here. She was looking for words.
evidence. I'm optimistic that those people exist, and
All right. This is contradiction. That's when I tell you she's shaking her head and she's saying, I'm optimistic that
I'm optimistic that those people exist.
I'm optimistic that those people exist, but she's shaking her head and she's got her head a bit back. I don't think that she's that optimistic about it. I think that she knows the challenge. So her optimism is in fact limited.
They'll hear the evidence and they'll see the truth. But
This is what I tell you, that's why she has this left side of her mouth bias. She not only had the raised right eyebrow, but notice that it looks like she has a smile of contempt. She has had this expression the whole interview. That is part of her body language baseline. And again, that makes you look at somebody's face and the first reaction that you have is that you dislike them because they have this like resting face of contempt, and that is important so you can reach a better conclusion. Oh yeah, this is something that happens all the time. You're not going to avoid feeling like that when you look at their face. It's something that is natural, but you will understand why you feel like that. That is important.
Evidence, and they'll see the truth.
Notice that when she says see the truth, you can see this like kind of a snapshot. It looks like a smug face. Oh, the truth. Oh, they're gonna see the truth. How dare she? And those who think that she's guilty, they look at this and I saw all that I needed to see. She is automatically guilty. And in terms of body language, we already know, we have realized that the configuration of her face, whether if it's for maybe sometimes you can have a partial paralysis of your face, or if your MS, her MS symptoms, that's what is causing this. It could be a smug face, it could be a smug smile, it could be a dip in the light, but it can also be the MS. So that's what I told you. This was going to be a challenge. This was not going to be easy. No, nobody told us this was going to be easy, right? But it's interesting. It's interesting to go through this.
But I believe people in Norfolk County, I've seen it, and I'm not from Norfolk County. I didn't live there. I wasn't raised there. But they're smart and savvy, and they're passionate. And when they do hear about the case, most of my supporters.
I noticed that she is like, how is this? What is the word? Brown nosing? Brown nosing Norfolk County's people.
But they're smart and savvy, and they're passionate. And when they do hear about the case, most of my supporters, I would guess, are from Norfolk County proportionately.
She was beginning to lean her head a bit to one side. I think that something that she hasn't done. She always has been like this. All right. Notice that the way she begins to talk about Norfolk County people, she begins very slowly to lean her head in the other direction. I'm gonna just add a mark in there. I really, at this moment, it doesn't have a direct meaning. She's tilting her head. I am not going to advance any guess on that, but I find it interesting that she's talking about her supporters, and you should see some kind of reaction, right? And you see that we already know that we cannot trust, quote unquote, her face muscles that much. Sometimes we cannot even trust her words, but her attorney answers for her. But we can trust that her body is shifting in some way. Her head is shifting.
Most of my supporters, I would guess, are from Norfolk County proportionately.
I would guess, I think that she's not guessing. I think that she knows that for a fact.
And they're intelligent. They see this for what it is by following the evidence really closely. So I just need jurors that'll do that. I haven't done it yet, but will be willing to do.
All right. So yeah, it's impossible to find people who haven't gone through this. I need to see this clip again.
They're intelligent. They see this for what. They're intelligent.
Intelligent, and she. Okay, I think that she's swallowing. Yeah, she's swallowing, and she does the thing. You know, when she's nervous. Oh, okay, I have to say something. She's thinking, I have to say something nice, but I already said that they are smart, and now I'm saying that they're intelligent. I should have said that they maybe are unbiased. Could have been the right word.
They see this for what it is by following the evidence really closely. So I just need jurors that'll do that. I haven't done it yet, but will be willing to do.
Another thing that why her head came back to her usual position, and this is another thing that she did, the crazy eyes. The crazy eyes, something that we saw her doing that at the beginning. We hadn't actually seen the full sclera, a full line, you know, the sclera of the eye, this, right? I'm gonna really zoom in. So this is one. This is part of the crazy eyes. When the eyelids are or on top of the pupil or are so over the pupil that you can see the bridge of the sclera, the white of the eyes on top. And yeah, that could be unsettling, but that's one way that she does that. That is not the MS. That's something that she does on purpose to emphasize something.
By following the evidence really closely.
Yeah, she does this. Yeah, and she does this. What can I tell you? I think that no normal human being can like an expression like this. But Karen Read does this every now and then. And she is talking about her supporters and the jury. Well, now she's talking about the jury, so she wants to make sure to send the message. You have to look at the evidence really closely. So maybe that's why she is opening her eyes so much. So one thing that I noticed is when talking about the federal investigation, that is in minute 26. Let me see. Minute 26, where are we? I don't know how long are we going to take in this analysis. We're going to take as long as it is necessary, but I know that I'm going to just analyze the most pressing highlights. So here we go.
ARCA information came in that document dump. I guess, what was your emotion kind of reading what they decided?
I didn't really know the details of it until trial because I did not have the same access to those materials that the attorneys did.
Notice that her face so far answering this question has been neutral. It's very serene. She is, I think that she has been the most confident speaking of all the clips that we have seen so far. That is interesting. It's like she is very confident of that federal investigation.
Federal protective order. It was another moment, and there's been so many, that I realized, to put it mildly, how underhanded this prosecution is, that a district attorney can be privy to that accident reconstruction report and continue to pursue this case.
Notice how she is coming back to her, that tension, the fact that a prosecutor, after that investigation, is still going for this case. This tension in her neck again. She's racing. She had a much neutral and relaxed face. You notice the neck is relaxed. The head is, the chin is a bit down. She is it's way more relaxed. And as she's speaking about the prosecution, she begins to raise her chin again. It's like that's her tale in which she begins to get upset about things.
That a district attorney can be privy to that accident reconstruction report and continue to pursue this case and not call Drs. Wolf and Rentschler.
She does the crazy eyes again. No.
Right, they have one job to do.
No, notice that when she does that gesture, the attorney knows that he has to intervene. Okay, I have to do something.
Right, they have one job to do. They have one job to do, to seek the truth. They had this information in front of them. As Karen just said, why wouldn't they call them? They should have called them. Their only job is to seek the truth, not to seek a conviction.
You can see that he is he's a bit distressed about this. We can see here his expression. We are not analyzing the attorney, but it's important. I was more interested. She's a bit nervous. There's a bit of scratching, a pacifying gesture in there. She was a bit. Why did she get nervous if she was so confident before about the investigation, the federal investigation?
As Karen just said, why wouldn't they call them? They should have called them. Their only job is to seek the truth, not to seek a conviction. And the truth is,
I don't know why the captions went all crazy all of a sudden. They shouldn't. It's strange. Why the captions are not working? Well,
a car didn't hit John. He
All right.
wasn't killed by being hit by a car. And they, not only did they not seek that truth, they tried to suppress it.
And their version of events was almost, it was laughable. It was laughable.
So yeah, she looks really confident when talking about this because she's got, you notice when she smiles, her lips are pulling upwards. You see that her right eyebrow is not pulling up that much. All right, she's relaxed. She's confident. I think that she knows that the federal investigation is the strongest part of her case, and she shows it when she's got that facial expression. Okay, she's confident about that.
It was illogical. It just did. The body just landed. The phone just landed. A side swipe with no bruises. It's not as if they had.
I think that she was a bit making those pauses. She was a bit nervous about talking about the details themselves. You know that is a minefield. If you begin to talk about the details and you say something that maybe you have mistakenly say something, you have to be very careful.
Qualified, credentialed, advanced educated experts to offer another version of events. They didn't have that, and they chose to ignore that.
Notice that there is very steady frequency of speech. She's not raising her voice. She in all cases we see that her chin is up is because she's talking about the prosecution.
And they chose to present to the court and to the public in a hearing that those federal materials, 3,000 pages, were 90 to 95% consistent with their theory of the case. The theory of the case is a car accident.
Notice how she is. She does a thing. Wait a second.
Consistent with their theory of the case. The theory of the case is a car accident.
All right. So yeah. I thought that she had done a lip to each other. No, it's just a wetting of the lips.
95% consistent with their theory of the case. The theory of the case is a car accident. The federal materials included a report that said there wasn't a car accident. That's the case. That's 95% of the case.
Notice that when she is again emphasizing, she does the crazy eye stuff.
A car accident. That's the case. That's 95% of the case. And it was inconsistent. It wasn't just inconsistent. It was diametrically opposed to the Commonwealth's theory of the case or lie of the case.
I noticed that that's when she begins to raise her voice a little, when she begins to stress her voice a little, like frustrated at how come they are pushing with this when that investigation proves that, well, that she's basically innocent. Well, we have another clip here, and a couple, let me see, a couple more clips here. There's a clip at the framing questions at 40 hours. Let me see. Let me know if you in the comments if you are enjoying this. If you're learning, you have to learn and enjoy it at the same time while I look for the next clip. Maybe you can take a time. I will try to divide this by chapters, right? Because, well, we are close to 1 hour now. I'm pretty sure that you're not gonna watch this in one sitting, but I'm pretty sure that dividing this by chapters is gonna be the way to go.
If you're framed, someone's got to run that, direct that. Who is that person?
Yeah, it's like, all right, who did that? Who killed John? But if you were framed, then who framed that? That question was gonna be the same.
I think you know who that person is. I think there's people who are enabling, and there's people who are actually moving pieces.
It's odd that the attorney in this case allowed her to answer. I'm gonna put a marker on that one. Add a marker. Interesting.
I think you know who that person is. I think there's people who are enabling, and there's people who are actually moving pieces.
Notice that there's a distinction when she smiled broadly and you saw that her face was mostly symmetrical. But the problem is that when she does these subtle expressions, she does that, again, that asymmetry of the face that looks like contempt. Right? That is, again, that is something that is so against her and her case. You would say, but Jesus, isn't important the investigation, all the things that people have on the case, all the research, all the facts. Body language, but body language can make or break anything in life. Is it fair? I wouldn't say that it's unfair unless you know the rules of the game. I think that has been my job as the body language guy to try to discover this with you, because we have discovered so many cases, but it's so few times, so little times, so few times that I find a case in which, it's the facial configuration of a suspect is naturally, I'm going to say this, not in a personal attack way, is naturally unlikable, but might be because of a physical condition. That is a huge problem. Because even if you know it, even if you are 100% aware of it, if you have the medical records of her multiple sclerosis, you will have the reaction. It's something that you cannot avoid. If you forget that for a second, if you let your consciousness forget that for a second, you will be biased by that. There's no way around that. That's how body language works. That's how human perception works. I don't make the rules. I just try to warn you about them.
I think you know who that person is. I think there's...
Okay, we already saw this part. Let's say this.
But is your theory that it's people inside that house, 34 Fairview, who sort of called the shots from the beginning, or someone high up in law enforcement?
I don't know the interconnections, the interpersonal relationships among these people.
She answered really, really calmed that one. And we're already 40 minutes. This was 40 minutes into the interview. She was already warm up. She had like more than 40 minutes to warm up for this answer. So I guess that she could answer with that confidence.
I don't know the interconnections, the interpersonal relationships among these people. I have a strong personal opinion that what has motivated this persecution of me is power. There were...
Notice that she did an eye fluttering again. She's talking about power. My question is, what does that power... Okay, is that power covering up for somebody else? That's the thing. And who is that somebody else? Who did this? Who did that jump?
What has motivated this persecution of me is power.
Notice, she did an eye fluttering in there, and this time there was no single eye closing.
Is power.
Yeah, it was like four or five blinks in there, eye fluttering. Totally normal when you are upset or nervous.
There were familiarities among players that never should have happened.
Again, she could be nervous because she knows that she has to be very careful with these answers.
There's a sleeve of homicide in the Norfolk DA's office, as there is in the other counties of Massachusetts. And yet the person assigned to investigate this case, ostensibly investigate this.
Oh, notice. Ostensibly, when she says ostensibly, she does something that she hasn't done before, that is raise her lower eyelids.
Assigned to investigate this case.
She does this. And notice how when she does that, we see an asymmetry on her face as well. It's normal, an asymmetry in which your left part of your face is more intense than the right part is normal. It's something that is almost expected. In her case, I'm just gonna assume that
Yet the person assigned to investigate this case
That the person assigned to investigate this case, she's got an strong emotional reaction when talking about that person.
ostensibly investigate this case lives a mile down the street from the crime scene. But I believe the players with the most influence are motivated more by power and playing God.
Power and playing God. Yeah. Well, according to her, they are motivated by power. That is interesting. I'm going to put a mark in there. So I've noticed that she has used the word power a couple of times. I remember when I was listening to this, the way that she talks about that.
Are motivated more by power and playing God. And they're trying to play God with my life.
And they're trying to play God with my life. All right. That is a... maybe it's a bit of a victimization, but I will allow it because, well, she has not played the victim so far in any of the clips that we have seen so far. So she hasn't addressed herself this way. It's just a couple words. I think it's fair.
Not to protect people.
People are being protected.
Oh, obviously somebody did that and somebody's being protected.
I don't know if the motivation was actually to protect those people, but it's a byproduct of it.
Yeah, because if it's not to protect somebody who did something really bad, what would be the motivation? What kind of conspiracy are we talking about here? And she speaks in a really confident way. I don't see any kind of emotional markers or reactions in here.
I mean, there are names, and we know those names, that were hidden from me.
All right. And she might be upset. That's why she is raising her chin. Yeah, we are noticing that when she's upset, that's when she raises her chin.
I only knew who was in that house from the rumor mill, from people I knew in Canton, and it ended up becoming true once we pushed and filed motions and flew the team in. And
no emotional markers out of the ordinary. Right now, she's quite calm and collected.
2 years later, a year and a half later, we're getting police reports of names of people that were in that house that I did not know about, or they were trying to make sure I didn't know about early in 2022.
Okay, rather long blink right at the
Trying to
end.
make sure I didn't know about early in 2022.
No, it's not a long blink. It's another short eye fluttering. She blinks twice very quickly when she is about to say the year.
Trying to make sure I didn't know about early in 2022.
And she presses her lips in 2022. She presses her lips and swallows. All right. I'm going to play this for a little longer outside the clip.
In 2022.
And you can't have one without the other.
Well,
You can't
right,
have.
the attorney noticed that she was starting to get a bit emotional for her voice tone and the way that she presses her lips. You can understand that we are looking. The camera is focused on her, and you can imagine that most likely the attorney is might be looking at her directly to assess her body language and know when to interrupt. We still have one clip to analyze before we say goodbye today, which is going to be important. Not saying goodbye is important, but the clip. I notice a reaction in here that we're going to see when they are discussing about taking the stand.
You've spoken at length about this case and the circumstances that have happened. Why not take the stand?
I am not saying that I am not taking the stand. I felt.
All right, two things. First one that I knew. No, that's what I marked this one. I remember this pause. It's like that's one of the benefits of listening to things before analyzing the body language, because the body language is the visuals are so many things happening at once But when you listen to things, you only listen this.
I-
Like 1 second, a pause of 1 second. Why did she pause 1 second?
I am not saying that I am not taking the stand.
I am not saying that I'm not taking the stand. She's denying with her words, but she is what? What is happening with her head?
I am not saying that I am not taking the stand.
There's a bit of contradiction there, but at the same time, that is a double negative that could be taken as, minus by minus. That is like a positive, like she is willing to take the stand, but I'm pretty sure that a but comes right now.
I felt confident in our case, in our defense, because a lot of our case was our cross-examination of these witnesses.
You know what it is? It's like this. She's stumbling. She's stumbling at this part. I don't know, because the cross-examination has, as far as I know, has gone. When we talk about those Google searches, for example, okay, has been mostly positive for her. I think that she's confident. Why, if she's confident of so far, why she's stumbling? I'm gonna play all this from the start, from that pause.
I am not saying that I am not taking the stand. I felt confident in our case, in our defense, because a lot of our case was our cross-examination of these witnesses.
All right. So the problem is that she's saying that she feels confident, but she doesn't sound confident. That's why it's so important to listen, really listen to people, how people speaks.
And we made a game time decision, and I take the advice of my attorneys, but I'm not afraid of taking the stand.
Single shoulder shrug.
We made a game time decision, and I take the advice of my attorneys, but I'm not afraid of taking the stand.
I would say 50-50. I would say that she's actually afraid of taking the stand. Who wouldn't be? By the way, that's something normal. Who wouldn't be of that?
And I'm clearly not afraid of speaking.
Yeah, you're clearly afraid of speaking. All that you have said so far when addressing taking the stand has been nervousness. That's why, and now I remember, that's why. That's one of my annotations. She had this pauses, this like kind of blaze fast thinking between words.
But I will not assign any genuine, truthful intentions to the prosecution.
Okay, so she's afraid of taking a stand of the bad faith of the prosecution. Well, that's understandable. But again, it is my question if you're innocent, if you have nothing to hide, if you know exactly what you did, if you trust the investigations, the federal investigations, what would be the problem? Her words want to convey that she has no problem on taking the stand. But her attitude, the way that she speaks, the way that she stumbles, no, this ain't it. This ain't it. She should have been better prepared for this question.
And I've already seen signs they're playing hardball. So we'll weigh the pros and cons, and we'll make another second game time decision.
Well, a lot of nervousness in that last one, which is odd. To rest this, for now we don't have any more clips. I have a couple observations about this case, and I'm gonna share with you what I saw the first time that I saw Karen Read and her case. My mind immediately jumped, oh, this is a conspiracy. This is a conspiracy of powerful people who I want to blame. I don't know. I had that impulse But I know myself, and that's why I tell you I have my master class of body language and persuasion, my kinesics master class. And one of the first things before reading any body language is that you have to know yourself. You have to know where your impulses, your opinions come from, because we are not without biases. And I'm always looking for conspiracies here and there, because conspiracies are fun. Oh, there's be this conspiracy. But then I said, okay, I should try to look the other way. What if Karen Read is actually guilty of what is going on? That's when I found out about all this really strange situations about the case. When you add up all the let's say all that has happened in this case, the marks, if they are consistent or not with a dog bite, the tailgate that all of a sudden was an issue after the fact. So many of this. What is the word? All the fact, not the facts. All the proof, all the evidence. And you look at the evidence and how it was collected, and you say, hey, wait a second, wasn't that tainted in some way? How can they actually pinpoint those Google searches that were made about how long does it take for somebody to die, right? On the snow, or in the snow. And you see all this, and you begin to see, oh, wait a second, there's something that doesn't fit. This might be a conspiracy after all. She might be innocent after all. That was my first hunch, but I made sure to explore the opposite on those first analysis that I did. I have to confess that when I did those analysis, that was like 1 year ago, something like that, I didn't know at the time that she had multiple sclerosis and she suffered from that. I was analyzing one of her interviews, and I did not do on my Body Language Guy channel because the case was way too complex. And that's another challenge of a channel of true crime, in which the idea is to be, well, at least well informed of the circumstances of the case. And man, you can be, if you're watching this, if you have watched this far, I thank you on one hand. And second, I'm sure that you have followed all the details of Karen Read's case, or maybe you just like me talking about body language of people, but thank you anyway. Well, there's a lot of pieces and a lot of hours of trial, 2 trials in this case, and it can be really mind-boggling. How can you analyze something without knowing all the facts? And I have to tell you, it's humanly impossible for me with 9 YouTube channels so far. Yeah, it's officially. I have 9 YouTube channels. You're going to find about all of them at due time. To watch all the trial, to watch all the footage, to watch everything. I can have a better idea, but I try. Most important, what I can give you in the Crime Coroner is to make sure to do this analysis properly. In this case, listening, very important, and that's my greatest advice to you when you're going to analyze a case. Make sure to listen. But my first impulse was saying that, oh, Karen Read is innocent. I had a change of mind. And my appreciation right now is that, yeah, she's somehow being framed for some reason. The big question is, of course, the question that she was asked. Why she's being framed, and by whom? With what purpose? Why did John O'Keefe die that night? What was the actual circumstances of his death? Who was responsible of his death? And who is so hell-bent on that cover up. It's because who are those people? It's the thing. It's the actual question. Again, I would say that this is my opinion of the case. You can have a different opinion. That will be great. You can write that in the comments. That would be great. I'm pretty sure that so many of you are going to say, no, she's guilty. She's guilty. You can see it. Again, I understand that. I have tried in this first video of this channel to try to outline an analysis without any cuts. You saw my reaction raw with mistakes at all to a case that, well, has complexity and has been. I haven't seen something so polarizing in a while. And honestly, I cannot put my finger to why this case has been so polarizing in so many ways. That deserves an analysis in itself. Why the Karen Read analysis is so polarizing in itself. That is interesting, and on one hand. But again, after all this, maybe this is not the end. Maybe she will take the stand, and once I really haven't followed her case. Maybe you can recommend me any clips from this case. I think Jennifer McCabe could be worthy of analyzing. I don't know. But most important is that, as I was telling you at the beginning of this video, I'm going to most likely summarize these cases on the Body Language Guy. Today I made an exception. Today is True Crime Tuesday. But today I'm going to make an exception. I'm just going to introduce this channel on my Body Language Guy channel. I already did that. And I'm going to do this analysis to, well, be warming up, and let's see how you like or not like this channel. And make sure to comment, what do you want to see in this channel? How do you want this analysis? You want the length of the analysis? You already know that we're going to have real long videos. I think that we were really, let's say, shorty for what I have done sometimes. 1 hour and 20 minutes is going to be. I think that is more than enough for today. But I want your feedback. I want to know, what do you want to see? I already know that you want to see interrogations, police interrogations. We're going to watch those police interrogations. But a police interrogation, for example, in the Madeline Soto case, I was covering the Madeline Soto case. There are not that many pieces on that case, a very tragic case, by the way, but the interrogations are hours. And I say, okay, I'm going to do like 8 hours of analysis. I still don't know. I'm still figuring this out. And I'm pretty sure that you can help me figure things out. My Body Language buddies, my name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm still the Body Language Guy, even if we are here in the Crime Corner. I hope that you like, subscribe, and make sure to, well, suggest which cases, and reach out to me in my X account, Kinesics, for anything that you look out there suspicious and you want to pitch. Remember the most important words: much love and bliss. Bye-bye.